What would make 200 champions unite behind one man? When Tarek discovers a homeless mother holds evidence against a criminal empire, he becomes their unlikely protector. As deadly mercenaries close in, he calls on fighters from his past. A battle for justice begins. Will they survive against impossible odds? Find out in this thrilling story and subscribe to Seeds of Goodness for more content that inspires. The rain poured down on Bridgetown's East District as Tarek Jabari made his way through the alley behind Warehouse 17. At 42, his once powerful frame still carried the build of a fighter, though the years had softened some edges. 15 years ago, they called him the Midnight Panther, undefeated middleweight champion for 3 consecutive years before he disappeared from the public eye. Now, he worked night security at Graham's storage, a job that paid little but demanded even less. It suited him fine. After what happened in his last professional fight, Tarek had vowed never to raise his fists in violence again, a promise that had cost him his career, his fortune, and eventually, his family. The warehouse district was eerily quiet tonight. Even the usual drug dealers and homeless folk seemed to have found better shelter from the downpour. As Tarek approached the side entrance of the facility, a woman's scream pierced through the drumming of rain on metal rooftops. Instinctively, he moved toward the sound, his body remembering reflexes his mind had tried to forget. In the loading zone behind an abandoned textile factory, 3 men surrounded a woman and 2 small children huddled against a concrete wall. The family's meager possessions, a shopping cart filled with clothes and blankets, lay scattered across the wet ground. "Please," the woman begged, "we're leaving. Just let us go." The tallest of the men laughed, flashing a knife. "You picked the wrong spot to camp, lady. Vince doesn't allow squatters here. Says it brings down property values." Tarek recognized the name. Vince Mercer, local real estate developer with connections to every corrupt official in the city. These weren't random thugs. They were Mercer's cleanup crew, tasked with urban beautification by any means necessary. "That's enough," Tarek said, stepping into view. "They're clearly leaving. Let them be." The 3 men turned, initially surprised, then amused by the interruption. The knife wielder smirked. "Mind your business, old man. Security guards don't make enough to be heroes." "I'm not trying to be a hero," Tarek replied calmly. "I'm just asking you to let them go." The first punch came quickly, a wild haymaker that Tarek avoided with a slight tilt of his head. 15 years of restraint dissolved in an instant. His body moved with muscle memory, blocking the second attack and responding with a precise jab to the attacker's solar plexus. The man doubled over, gasping. The second thug rushed forward. Tarek sidestepped, using the man's momentum to send him stumbling into a stack of wooden pallets. The third man, the one with the knife, was more cautious, circling slowly. "You've made a big mistake," he growled, lunging forward with the blade. Tarek's movements were fluid, economical. He caught the man's wrist, twisted, and applied pressure to a nerve point. The knife clattered to the ground as its owner howled in pain. A quick sweep took the man's legs out from under him, sending him crashing to the wet pavement. In less than 30 seconds, it was over. The 3 men scrambled away, one of them shouting, "Vince will hear about this!" Breathing heavily, Tarek turned to the woman and children. The woman clutched a small backpack to her chest, eyes wide with fear and something else. Recognition. "You're him, aren't you?" she whispered. "The Midnight Panther." Tarek grimaced. "That was a long time ago. Are you and your children hurt?" "No, we're okay," she replied, gathering her scattered belongings. "I'm Nyala. These are my children, Zuri and Ikon." The children, a girl around 8 and a boy perhaps 5, stared up at him with solemn eyes too old for their young faces. "You can't stay here," Tarek said, helping Nyala reload the shopping cart. "Mercer's men will be back with more friends next time." "We don't have anywhere else to go," Nyala admitted. "The shelters are full, and since—" She paused, glancing at her children. Tarek hesitated, then made a decision that would change everything. "I have a place. It's not much, but you'll be dry for tonight." His small apartment above an old boxing gym in the South District was Spartan but clean. As the children fell asleep on his worn sofa, Nyala finally explained her situation. "I used to work for Meridian Investments," she said softly. "I was an accountant. 6 months ago, I noticed irregularities in some of our major accounts. Money laundering, millions of dollars. When I reported it to my supervisor, he thanked me and said they'd investigate." She laughed bitterly. 2 days later, my house burned down while we were inside. The fire department called it an accident. "Meridian Investments," Tarek repeated. "That's Vincent Mercer's company." Nyala nodded. "It gets worse. Meridian isn't just laundering money. They're running guns, drugs, even people through this city. I copied files before I left, evidence that would bring down their entire operation. That's why they won't stop looking for me." Tarek rubbed his face wearily. "Why not go to the police?" "The police commissioner's brother sits on Meridian's board," Nyala replied. "The mayor received his largest campaign donation from Vince Mercer. There's no one in this city I can trust." A heavy silence filled the room as Tarek absorbed this information. Outside, the rain had stopped, but a new storm was brewing, one that would soon engulf them all. The next morning, Tarek woke to the sound of his phone ringing. The caller ID showed a number he hadn't seen in years. "They found you," a gravelly voice said without preamble. "Darius?" Tarek sat up straight. Darius Knox had been his cut man and trainer back in his fighting days. "What are you talking about?" "There's a bounty out on the streets. 100 grand for information on a homeless woman and her kids. Last seen with a large black man near the warehouse district. Sound familiar?" Tarek glanced toward his living room, where Nyala and her children were still sleeping. "How do you know this?" "I still have ears in places," Darius replied. "Listen carefully. Mercer's hired professionals this time, a team called the Obsidian Group." Tarek's blood ran cold. The Obsidian Group was infamous in certain circles, ex-military operators who now worked as mercenaries for the highest bidder. "Get out of your apartment," Darius continued. "Use the old escape route through the gym. I'll meet you at the cabin in 2 hours." After hanging up, Tarek quickly woke Nyala and the children. "We need to leave, now." As they hurried down the back stairs to the abandoned gym, Nyala asked, "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe," Tarek replied, though he wasn't sure if any place would truly be safe for them now. He didn't see the surveillance camera across the street, its lens focusing on their exit, nor did he see the black SUV that began following them 6 blocks later, maintaining a discreet distance as they made their way toward the city limits. The chess pieces were in motion, and the game had only just begun. Darius Knox's cabin sat nestled in the woods 20 miles outside Bridgetown, accessible only by a narrow dirt road that wound through dense pine forest. It had served as a training retreat during Tarek's fighting days, a place to escape distractions before major bouts. Now, it offered a different kind of sanctuary. "You've landed yourself in deep waters this time," Darius commented, watching Nyala help her children settle into the cabin's spare bedroom. At 65, Darius moved more slowly than in his prime, but his eyes retained their sharp intelligence. "I couldn't leave them," Tarek replied simply. Darius nodded. "I figured as much. That's why I made a call." Before Tarek could ask who Darius had contacted, the sound of a vehicle approaching drew their attention. Through the window, Tarek spotted a mud-splattered Jeep parking beside his borrowed car. A lean man with close-cropped gray hair emerged, dressed in nondescript clothing that nonetheless suggested military precision. Tarek recognized him immediately. "Major Ezekiel Quinn," Tarek said as the man entered without knocking. "It's been a long time." "Lieutenant Colonel now, actually," Quinn corrected, his expression neutral. "Though these days I answer to private citizen." He glanced around the cabin before settling his gaze on Tarek. "You look good for someone who's supposed to be washed up." Years ago, before his fighting career, Tarek had served under then Major Quinn in an elite special operations unit. Their final mission together had gone catastrophically wrong, the reason Tarek had left the military and found his way into professional fighting. "What did Darius tell you?" Tarek asked. Enough to know you're in trouble, Quinn replied. The Obsidian group isn't known for leaving witnesses. If they're after your friends, it's serious. Nyala stepped into the room, her posture tense but resolute. I have evidence that could dismantle Meridian Investments' entire operation, not just in Bridgetown, but across 5 states. Quinn's eyebrows rose slightly. You're the whistleblower. Nyala looked startled. You know about me? Rumors in certain circles, Quinn explained. A financial specialist with damning evidence against a powerful organization. Most assumed you were dead. He turned to Tarek. You've stepped into something bigger than local corruption. Meridian is just the public face. They're connected to a syndicate with international reach. Then help us, Tarek said simply. Quinn was silent for a long moment. I can make some calls. I still have contacts in active service who aren't compromised. But you need to understand, official channels are closed. Whatever help comes will be unofficial. How unofficial? Darius asked. Quinn's mouth curved in a slight smile. Let's just say retirement gets boring for people with specialized skills. While Quinn stepped outside to make his calls, Tarek checked the cabin's perimeter. The property was defensible. Good sightlines, limited approaches, reinforced doors and shutters from Darius's paranoid phase. But against professional mercenaries, they wouldn't hold out long without additional support. Your friend, Nyala said, joining him on the porch. Can he be trusted? Quinn has his faults, Tarek admitted, but he never leaves his people behind. And is that what we are now? Your people? Tarek met her gaze. Yes, for as long as you need protection, you have it. The next morning brought the first wave of reinforcements. 3 nondescript SUVs arrived, carrying 8 men and women with the quiet competence that marked former Special Forces operators. Quinn introduced them only by first names: Rashida, Kai, Tenzin, Soren, Javier, Layla, Mateo, and Vivian. Their specialties ranged from tactical command to medical support to electronic countermeasures. Not much of an army, Darius commented as they unloaded equipment. Quality over quantity, Quinn replied. Each of them is worth 10 ordinary operators, and they're just the advance team. By midday, satellite communications were established in the cabin, and Nyala was working with Layla to secure and analyze her evidence. Tarek watched with growing unease as the cabin transformed into a forward operating base. This feels familiar, he told Quinn as they inspected the defensive perimeter. Having second thoughts? Quinn asked. No, Tarek replied. Just remembering why I left this life behind. Quinn studied him. You left because you blamed yourself for what happened in Karakan. It wasn't your fault, Jabari. 7 dead civilians would disagree, Tarek said flatly. Bad intelligence and command decisions you weren't part of, Quinn countered. You saved 16 others that day. Focus on the ones you can save now. Their conversation was interrupted by Rashida, who approached with a tablet. Sir, we've picked up chatter. Obsidian teams are mobilizing toward this region. They've narrowed the search area. Quinn nodded. Timeline? 24 hours, maybe less, Rashida replied. We need to accelerate our timetable, Quinn decided. Contact the others. Tell them we're moving to Phase 2 immediately. As Rashida departed, Tarek asked, What's Phase 2? Calling in everyone who owes us favors, Quinn said, and some who don't, but who hate Meridian enough to help anyway. Throughout the afternoon and evening, more vehicles arrived at the cabin. Unlike the initial team, these newcomers were a diverse group. Former boxers, MMA fighters, martial arts instructors, and street fighters from across the region. Many greeted Tarek with respect or admiration. Word spread through the underground fighting circuits, Darius explained. The Midnight Panther is making a stand against Meridian. You'd be surprised how many people have scores to settle with Mercer and his operation. A solidly built woman with close-cropped hair approached Tarek. Imani Okoro, she introduced herself. You probably don't remember me. Junior welterweight champion, 3 years running, Tarek replied immediately. You retired undefeated. Imani smiled. Meridian's bookies threatened my sister when I wouldn't throw a title fight. I've been waiting for a chance to hit back. Similar stories emerged from many of the fighters. Meridian's tentacles reached throughout the combat sports world, fixing matches, laundering money through event promotion, forcing fighters into impossible situations. By nightfall, over 60 fighters had assembled at the cabin and surrounding woods. Quinn organized them into teams based on skills and experience, while Darius assessed their combat capabilities. "They're not soldiers," Quinn noted as they watched Darius running groups through basic tactical movements. "No," Tarek agreed. "They're survivors. Sometimes that's better." As darkness fell, Tenzin approached with intel updates. "Obsidian has deployed 3 tactical teams. They're establishing a search grid centered 10 miles from here. We estimate contact by tomorrow afternoon at the latest." Quinn nodded. "Then we strike first. Dawn raid on Meridian's regional headquarters. If we secure their servers and capture their operations director, we can leverage that for protection." "It's bold," Tarek commented. "It's necessary," Quinn replied. "We can't just play defense, not against these odds." Later that night, as preparations continued, Nyala found Tarek sitting alone on the cabin's back porch. "All these people came because of you," she said. Tarek shook his head. "They came because they've been waiting for a chance to fight back. We're just the catalyst." Nyala sat beside him. "My children asked if you're like the heroes in their stories. I didn't know what to tell them." "I'm no hero," Tarek said quietly. "Maybe not," she agreed, "but you're something they need right now. We all are." In the distance, more headlights appeared through the trees as additional fighters arrived. The message had spread further than they'd anticipated. What had begun as a desperate escape was transforming into something else entirely, a resistance. Dawn was approaching, and with it the first battle in a war none of them had expected to fight. But as Tarek watched the growing army of unlikely warriors, he felt something he hadn't experienced in 15 years. Purpose. The Meridian Investments regional headquarters gleamed in the early morning light, its glass facade reflecting the rising sun. From their position in the abandoned building across the street, Tarek and Quinn observed the facility through binoculars. "Security is heavier than expected," Quinn noted. "They've doubled their usual personnel." "They know we're coming," Tarek concluded. Quinn nodded grimly. "Leak or logical assumption doesn't matter now. We adjust." Their strike force had grown to nearly 200 by morning. Fighters, veterans, and even some local citizens with grudges against Meridian. They had been divided into 4 teams. Alpha would breach the main entrance, Beta would secure the servers, Gamma would evacuate civilians, and Delta, led by Tarek, would locate and capture Alexei Voronin, Meridian's operations director. "Remember," Tarek addressed his team, "Voronin is our primary objective. He's the only one who can definitively connect Meridian to the international syndicate." Imani checked her tactical gear. "What if he resists?" "He will," Tarek replied. "Voronin was Spetsnaz before joining Meridian. He's dangerous." At precisely 7:30 a.m., the operation commenced. Alpha Team created a diversion at the main entrance, while Beta disabled the building's security systems. Tarek led Delta through a service entrance, encountering minimal resistance initially. "Too easy," Tarek muttered as they ascended toward the executive floor. His instincts proved correct. As they reached the top floor, they faced a blockade of heavily armed security personnel. The ensuing firefight was brief, but intense. Imani took a bullet to the shoulder but insisted on continuing. When they finally breached Voronin's office, they found it empty, except for a phone on the desk, its speaker activated. "Impressive operation, Mr. Jabari," came a cultured voice through the speaker. "Or should I call you Panther? Your reputation was not exaggerated." "Mercer," Tarek recognized the voice of Meridian's CEO. "I'm disappointed we couldn't meet in person," Mercer continued. "But rest assured we will, very soon. Your friend Quinn's team is currently walking into an ambush in the server room. Obsidian teams have surrounded the building. Oh, and those precious children you've been protecting? My associates are closing in on their location as we speak." Tarek's blood ran cold. They'd left Nyala and her children at a secondary safe house with Darius and several fighters as guards. "You're bluffing," Tarek challenged. Mercer chuckled. "Am I? Check your phone." A video message showed Obsidian operatives approaching the safe house. "What do you want?" Tarek demanded. "The evidence Ms. Nyala stole, of course. Bring it to the Bridgetown Marina, Dock 27, tonight at midnight. Come alone." The line went dead. Tarek immediately contacted Quinn, who confirmed they'd been ambushed but had fought their way out. They needed to evacuate immediately. As they regrouped outside, Quinn received word that the safe house had indeed come under attack. But Darius had been prepared. The children and Nyala were safe, moved to a tertiary location at the first sign of trouble. "It was an inside job," Quinn concluded. "Someone in our network is compromised." "It doesn't matter now," Tarek said. "Mercer wants to meet." "It's a trap," Imani stated flatly. "Of course it is," Tarek agreed, "which is why we're going to set one of our own." That night, as Tarek approached Dock 27 alone, he carried a briefcase supposedly containing Nyala's evidence. Mercer waited on his luxury yacht, flanked by bodyguards, including the unmistakable figure of Alexei Voronin. "Mr. Jabari," Mercer greeted him warmly. "I'm glad you decided to be reasonable." "Where's the family?" Tarek demanded. "Safe for now," Mercer gestured to the briefcase. "The evidence?" As Tarek handed over the briefcase, Voronin stepped forward to inspect it. The moment was perfect, exactly as planned.